Hello everybody, it's Lurgs here, welcome to my channel, and today how to replace the pollen filter on your Volkswagen T5 Transporter. Now I've had the van for 6 years and it was second hand when I bought it, so it's 9 years old and it's probably never been changed, so it'd be really interesting to see how dirty that old one is when I take it out. Right, let's get cracking. This is the Volkswagen T5 that I'm going to be replacing the pollen filter on today. And this should be applicable to models 2010 to 2015. And before we get started, there's a link above now where I review and drive the Volkswagen T5 Combi 140 horsepower, which is this model here. It's definitely worth checking that out if you're thinking of buying one second hand. Now, depending on how much driving you do, it's really important to change your pollen filter because it will get full of dust and debris and leaves, and then basically it keeps your lungs healthy. I've noticed on mine, when I put the fan blower on number 4, which is the highest setting, I haven't got very good airflow coming out of the vents. Now this does indicate that the pollen filter is dirty and blocked. This is the pollen filter that I bought here and it's FP2842. I'll just take it out of the box and show you this. Now the reason you're replacing this is because it filters the cabin air, removes pollen, diesel, soot and particulates, eliminates odours, harmful gases and ozone, and protects against allergens and bacteria. Right, now what you're going to need for today is a 5.5mm socket. You are also going to need a tamper-proof bit, also known as a Torx. And you might need some lights, either a light or a torch. And it says here in the instructions it takes 10 minutes. Well, it didn't take me 10 minutes, it took me considerably longer. This is a right-hand drive van, so open the passenger side door on your van. The first thing to do is move the passenger seat as far back as it will go. This will just give you a little bit more access because you will be laying on your back. Take your Torx screwdriver or tamper-proof bit screwdriver, and there's 3 nuts that we need to remove. One here, and one here. So let's just lie down. Here's the first one. Obviously turning it anti-clockwise to remove, and I'll just speed this footage up. And there's a link above now about the battery location and how to check the battery on your Volkswagen T5. Now let's remove the middle one. And finally the third one on the end. Let's just speed this up again. Once you've removed all those 3 screws, this panel just kind of lifts out towards you. It's got some hooks in the footwell end, which I'll show you when I pull it out. So just pull it down slightly and then pull it outwards towards you. Now pull it out, and there we go. Now this might have a bit of dust in it, so it's definitely worth cleaning that before you put it back in. Let's just turn it over. And you can see those hooks at the bottom. I'll show you that when we put that back. I'll show you where those go. Right, so let's get back in the van. And now you'll need your 5.5mm socket. And we've got 2 nuts to remove, which actually hold the pollen filter in place. What I do here is I just pause the video. So this is the actual pollen filter here, inside here, and you've got that nut to remove, and you've got another one further up, which I'll show in just a few seconds when the video moves along. So let's get this one off first. And there's the other one just up there at the top. So you've only got 2 nuts to remove. Again, you'll be doing this anti-clockwise. There we go. Once it's nearly off, you can just do it by hand. Put that nut somewhere safe. Now let's remove the one at the top. So get the socket onto that one. Get that one undone. And there's a link above now about how to reset the service light on your Volkswagen T5. That's really useful if you do your own servicing and you want to get rid of that really annoying spanner icon on the dashboard which keeps telling you you need a service. I think I need a service. Okay, so that nut is now removed. Put that somewhere safe with the other one. Oh, hello. So this is me laying on my back just to show you exactly where the pollen filter is, just to try and give you some perspective. Okay, we've got those two nuts removed, so now what you can do is just pull this cover off. It's just held in with 3 small clips at the top which just push through some small gaps, so just kind of pull it downwards and pull it out. And there is the pollen filter there in the background. There we go. And you can already see some dirt and leaves in the bottom of the pollen filter there. Just be careful when you pull that out, you will get a face full of dirt and dust. So make sure you've got your eyes shut if you're laying right underneath it. Okay, to remove it, it's just a filter, so it just will concertina itself. So just get your fingers in there, squeeze it up together. Once you squeeze it in from the edge, you can just pull it downwards. Just give it a wiggle, just keep pulling, and eventually it will just come out. You'll get lots of dust and debris. As I said earlier, this will be really interesting to see how dirty it is. Now, as you're pulling it out, make sure you make a note of where the writing is on this, because when you put the new one in, it has to be a specific side for the airflow. You can't put it in the wrong way round, because then you won't get as good airflow. So make a note of which way it goes round. As I mentioned earlier, this pollen filter is probably 9 years old, so it's going to be absolutely filthy. So what I do is I just lay it out on the ground and we'll just concertina it out and just have a look at what's inside. As you can see there on the right hand side, you've got some writing saying airflow with the arrows pointing down. Now, it's important when you put that back in that you get that the right way in. Now look at all this dirt and dust and debris inside this old pollen filter. Pretty disgusting, but it stops it coming into the cabin, so that's why you have it. So we've got a nice shiny new fresh one to go in. Before I do that, I'm just going to clean the cover. This is the cover that came off. It's just got a bit of dirt and debris on it, so I'm just going to put the hoover on. Just give that a bit of a clean. And it's just kind of got a loose seal around it, so you can pull that off if you want and give that a good clean. And there's a link above now about the fuse box locations and how to check the fuses on your Volkswagen T5. Okay, so let's take the new one out of the box and we'll just put them side by side. This one has actually got a little split at the top, but it doesn't actually matter because it's just going to get wedged into that space. Now note the position of the airflow. So this is the new one and that was the old one. And it has to go in that way round. This is where the pollen filter came out of. There might be some dirt and dust up there, so just try and get a cloth up there and give that a clean, or the hoover. And then we're about halfway through, so I'm just going to stop for a lovely cup of tea. Make sure you stop halfway through for a lovely cup of tea. Oh, so this is the brand new filter here. Note the position of the airflow. So that's what's way it's going up. As I'm lining it up there, literally, if you could just put it straight skywards, that's how it's going to go. And I'm lying on my back here. Oh, hello Cookie Monster. cookies. Right, so take your brand new pollen filter, and it will concertina and squeeze together. So you can just give it a squeeze to get it in that gap. Once you've got it in there, you can just push it all the way up. It's best just to try and get one corner in first and then concertina it, squeeze it together, and then push it upwards. There we go, it's going up. Just keep pushing it till it goes all the way in. Once it's all the way in, then we can get that cover back on. There we go. So that's now in. So let's take the cover. You can see you've got those 3 little clips at the top. You just offer those up into the gaps which holds it in place, and then once they're in those clips, you can just tighten those 2 nuts up. Now just be careful when you're putting this back in, because you've got that loose rubber seal around it. Make sure that doesn't actually fall out or come loose if it's got a bit worn. So before you tighten those nuts up, make sure that seal on that cover is good and not sticking out, so you don't damage it. And also you don't want any air coming into the cabin unless it's gone through the filter first. Now once you've got it all lined up, then get one of the nuts in just to hold that cover on. Otherwise, with gravity, that pollen filter will try and fall back out. So we've got the first nut on. Just going to tighten it up by hand first. Then we can get that top one on. And I've tucked that rubber seal in so it's all nice and secure. And there's a link above now about how to replace the windscreen washer jet nozzles on your Volkswagen T5, and that is also applicable to most other Volkswagen cars and vehicles in that range. Okay, so just tighten them up with your socket. Don't massively over tighten them because you're only screwing up into plastic. You don't want to damage the thread. Just tight enough. Okay, that's all done. You've got a little bit of sound insulation there. Just tuck that back out. And then we can get this cover back in. You've got those 2 clips at the bottom, which is in the footwell area. They literally go into some holes, which helps it sit up at the bottom. Let's just try and show you that here on the video. You've got the 2 clips there, and you've got one there and one there. So when you're putting it in, get those into those holes and then push it upwards, and then get those 3 screws back in. Okay, that's all looking good. Just tuck that sound insulation back up. Now we can get those 3 screws back in. Right, so take your Torx screwdriver. Again with these, they're just screwing into some metal brackets and plastic, so don't over tighten them. I'll just speed this part up. And then what we'll do is we'll retest the blowers and see if we've got much better airflow, which we should definitely have, because the old one is absolutely full of dust and grime and leaves. So that's all nice and secure. Right, let's test out the blowers now. Put them on maximum. I'll put it coming out of the vents, and I'll just let you listen. Oh yeah, we've got Hurricane blowers back. Absolutely fantastic. Brilliant. Oh, lovely fresh air. If you found that video on the Volkswagen T5 useful, then please subscribe by pressing this button down here. I really do appreciate you checking out my channel, everyone. If you'd like to select any other videos around here, that would be really cool. And be sure to hit that bell notification tab.